You're listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series, and my name is Andrew Mackay-Smith. The interview subject you've tuned in to listen to is Paul Haug from the Melbourne outfit Contrive. The reason for the conversation is to talk up the band's 2017 release, Slow Dissolve. Let's have a listen to what he has to say then. Here we go.
As I said earlier, twice now, but I'm going to say for the third time, congratulations on a stellar musical offering. The stellar album from both yourself and your bro is called Slow Dissolve. And mate, I'm a long-time fan of metal, and I'm hearing a bit of Death, Killing Joke, Devon Townsend, Faith No More, Coroner, and of all things, Dream Theater. But it's all bound together by some very tasty arrangements. And you know what I like best about your offering here, mate, is that I can hear everything. The music breathes. I can get my head around what I think you both yourself and your brother are trying to achieve sonically, and there's no sensory overload. So I'm going to open with a very broad question, mate. Tell us about the album in your own words.
Well, you pretty much sort of summed up a lot of that we were aiming to let the music breathe in terms of songs, song structures, etc., but not sort of copy those bands that you mentioned, because we're fans of those bands, but we haven't set out, okay, we like a bit of this, so let's chuck that in there. It all went in the melting pot, and we just came out with what we did. And when it came to mix time, you know, Dave plays in Devon's band, he's a long-time friend as well, and you see, even though Dev mixed our last album, Dave and his brother Mike had started to do their own sort of mixing with some bands in Canada, and he just said, look, hit us up. We're happy to give you guys a test mix. And originally we were going to be getting our album mixed by Tommy from Coroner, Tommy Paterli. We discussed it with him, and he did a rough mix, but he was just so swamped with schedules. And this was, I can't remember now, maybe... I can't remember, late last year we talked about it, and he said, I wouldn't be able to do anything until even April or something this year. I think I may have my dates mixed up, months mixed up. But anyway, it was just going to be too hard for him. And yeah, we're good friends with him as well. And he's like, job, business is business and all that sort of stuff too. And he just said, look, I don't want to waste your time and mine. I've got lots of other things on the go as well. But then we thought, that's cool. He said, I'm happy to do your next one if you want, and so we went with Dave and his brother, and then we just discussed how we wanted sounds. We did sort of say to him, this is the gear we sort of used, and we are sort of a foot in the old school, foot in new school. And in a way, a lot of people, I think, are fatigued from the recording of a lot of bands today. It almost sounds like everyone's using that wet sandbag snare sound.
No, totally agree, mate.
Everything is just, everything is just, everyone's fighting for space in those frequencies where normally in an instrument, the drummers are the loudest, so the guitar's got to come up, but everything is being pushed up, and then, the vocals need to be front and center because that's what people listen for with metal. The main thing is the vocals, and that fights for space too, and then you get these compressed to the hell files that you can't hear things breathing, and... Dave and his brother took that on board, and then we listened back, and I think we've come out with a perfect mix of a good modern, digital sound and recording, because recording to analog today is expensive still, but then you're still running that through digital gear as well. So people say, I can hear the warmth in a analog recording, but then you can't really tell if that's a plug-in from a digital recording. But so we just sort of said to him, we'll just keep listening to different mixes and levels and things like that, and got it mastered here. And the amazing thing for us was when we were getting the album finished, the last couple of days of mastering, Dave was in town with Devon, and we went and picked Dave up from the hotel and said, do you want to come and sit in for the mastering? Because we'd sent him a mastered version of a couple of songs to start with, and he said, yeah, it's sounding good. Then it kind of worked out scheduling-wise with Jack the Bear, who mixes in Melbourne, Tony. And we said, Dave, can Dave come in and sit in as well? And he did. He sat at the chair and tweaked a few things here and there. But like I said earlier, you hit the nail on the head that it's sonically, to me, it's sonically comfortable. You can crank it like older albums. It sounds better when you turn it up. And you find some, it's comfortable to listen to. It's not ear grating with just everyone fighting for space. So thank you for that. And thanks for those compliments of those bands as well. We're we're just open-minded metal guys, and we just like to, in a way, do our own thing. And musically, I think we have fallen in the cracks throughout our career because we've set out to always just do what we think sounds good, and if people enjoy it, cool. If not, then they're not.
So
there's a million other clone bands to listen to. There's so many. Yeah, I shouldn't say that totally, but there's a million bands that sound too similar to each other. And like you said earlier as well, with production, it's getting lost. Like, to me, some newer older bands are sounding like the newer bands, and who's copying who? And it's almost saying they've got the same production. Like, I'm not really a fan of Trivium or anything like that, but even some of the older bands are sounding like that, with that modern production, just to keep with the times. Otherwise, people would say, oh, it sounds old school, So it is a juggle of today's technology. So it is what it is. But yeah, we're very, very happy with how it turned out, and I'm very pleased that you enjoy it.
So, mate, thank you for that. And you're the band's vocalist, and I take it you're the band's lyricist as well. So is there a theme or a concept throughout the album?
Well, for me, I write a lot of stuff in between recordings, and it could be just one or two lines that stick in my head. I've got a notepad in the car. I have one in my side my bed, sort of in the top drawer, and sometimes on my phone if I'm traveling. Yeah, just things. I just compile things over time, and then when it comes time to putting things together, look back on what I've written, and I can sometimes craft a song based on a line. But it's loosely based on observations of today's society. It's something that we can't ignore and we can't sort of turn away from. For example, the Connect Dead song, which is the video clip that we did, is based upon social media. It's something, thanks. It's something that we can't live without. I've grown up without it, but I've adapted to it. Younger kids, and I've got twin nieces, and their heads in iPads every time I see them. Go outside and play. We'll do that a bit. And then they're on their iPads inside, and it's scary, but it's also, we live in amazing times that technology can do so much for us, but it can hinder us as human beings with connection to each other. And a lot of songs like that, just with the Slow Dissolve itself is, there's kind of a slow dissolve of humanity in its own way, in terms of people connecting with each other and people wanting to be accepted more and more. You see a lot of things on TV where people just are very emotional today, very fragile today, with high anxiety and stress, and we all have that in daily life, and it's stacked on top even more. But I think with lots of social media, that adds fuel to it by saying, I notice a lot of stuff. I take notice. I don't watch a lot of TV, but when it's on in the background somewhere, I notice that there's a lot of advertising where it's all, you deserve this, you can do that, you this, or I want this, I want that, I deserve this. And then it becomes a me focus, and that's when people get caught up that it's all about them. And that's where you see people outpouring every bit of emotion that they're feeling by typing it as though they're speaking like you and I now, and then what we're speaking about is gone. Just what I just said is that's in the past now, but when you put it to print, whatever, it's stuck there until it's deleted. People screenshot other people's things, and we live in pretty crazy times with that. So a lot of those lyrics were based a lot since the last album, kind of furthered on from the last album. I just write observations of life and thought, and just things like that. That's how I've sort of observed things and put it to paper like that.
And what were you trying to achieve with this release? And what I mean by that, are you looking to make inroads into Europe or the grand United States of America?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, we've always sort of tried to do our own thing, and overseas as well. A lot of friends have said, "Man, you guys would do well in Europe." And of course, the affordability 5 years ago was still quite hard, and the reality of doing what we do, like other bands in this country, we all work jobs, and with the recent stepping aside of our bass player, Tim, because he's got a young family and he's got to work to support that. And as you know, being in bands, you don't really make money.
It's
and
hard.
We had a bit of we kind of hit a crossroads as well, because we said, Andrew and I want to tour. We've got lots of friends worldwide, and we'd like to try to get over there and do some stuff we were grateful to play in Thailand 2009, and then we played in Vietnam, being the first metal band to ever play Vietnam 2011. That was amazing.
Congratulations on that,
yeah, because they're untapped areas, and these people deserve to see bands just like us. And anywhere in Europe, which we've become spoiled for choice. Same with people in Europe and Scandinavia. Like, I've travelled those countries many times, and they're just used to it. But yeah, so yeah, we're still with this album trying as well. And as you know, the music business itself it's changed a lot since our last album, and it changed a lot since our first album. So no one knows where it's going. You just have to sort of go with the flow of it and see where it's going. But there's a lot more of bands being in more control of their own business, that's what it is, sort of thing, than ever before, and people still have their mindset in kind of the old model where, oh, you're not signed to a label, you're not good enough. But then you see people get signed to, I don't know, some bedroom label in Germany, and people go, wow, that's awesome, you're signed. But then you go, what's that label going to actually do for you to help you reach a wider audience that you can't already do that yourself by Facebook posts and using other various signs of various ways of social media, because that's where everybody lives now, on that sort of stuff. So, yeah, we're still making the inroads with people and sending it to people we know, but there's never been a beg and grovel, oh, please take us on tour, because the reality is it's a pay-to-play on these things. And to get on some of these big tours, we can ask, yeah, we've got famous friends, big deal. But if we said to Devin and those guys, take us on tour, he handballs that into his management. Management checks out what we do and then thinks of logistics and then says, okay, guys, you have to pay for this.
This is what it's going to cost, yeah.
It's sort of, yeah, exactly. Totally. And it's not cheap, so it's still early days since the album's come out, and we played that first show last week and played the whole album in its entirety from start to finish, as we are as a two-piece, and our bass player Tim was there as well, which was great. And I actually spoke to him about an hour ago, and he said it was strange. I had 5 people come up to me saying, oh, how do you feel about being here? And he said, what do you mean? And there was never any issues of, like I said earlier, he didn't leave, we didn't sack him, he didn't quit. We just got to that point, and it was around the time that Andrew and myself, our dad, passed, and we needed something to keep us going. That's right. It's still very hard. It's something that never goes away. You just find better ways to live with it. And I know many other people in my position and people before them and after me. It's a cycle. It's life. So we just sort of said, okay, we could try many other guys that we know in bands as well, good friends, but we want someone that's dedicated, just like Andrew and I are, to doing what we do. And if you're playing together for so long, to get someone else in, they have to sort of work with you until they get to the point where it's comfortable that all three have to work together. And because we're probably one of the longest bands in the scene over the years that have had a solid lineup since we started. And because I look at old metal for the brain flyers I find in the cupboard and go, wow, there's 18 or 20 bands here, and 2 of them are still going, or 3 of them are still going.
Dreadnought and Super Heist, that's it.
2 guys,
about that,
2 guys from that band are in this band with these guys and that guy, and then, those guys were amazing, and then dropped off, or life got in the way, and lots of different things. So, back to what you were saying, we're just going to, keep knocking on doors and then keep sort of doing it, but ultimately, since we got that first show out the road last week, we're just going to start playing again, and we're kind of going to, like we always did. We've never fitted into styles. I went through kind of a bag full of flyers in a couple of months ago in winter, and just found a flyer where on a Thursday night we played at it's not that bar anymore, the Art House in Melbourne. Thursday night it was us, Psychroptic, and a band called Fuck I'm Dead, which is just brutal grind.
Yep.
All 3 of us on the one bill, $10. And I was like, that would never happen today, because it's such a, I wouldn't say totally segregated scene now, but now you've got other you've got other subgenres on top of other genres, like the deathcore kids took over from death metal and hardcore, and then their look is different to the death metal guys, and I think a lot of things today, it becomes face value, it's appearance. People will look at what these guys look like that, oh, no, they don't play that sort of music. I'm not going to check them out. Or they haven't got neck taps or big earlobes, holes in their ears. So what sort of stuff do they play? Oh, that's metalcore. Metalcore's dead now. You know what I mean? And it goes through so many different stages that, so we're just like, okay, we'll get back out there and play with whoever, you know, and we are suited to some of the proggier bands now with this release, but we haven't set out to...
I was thinking
we've
that,
never
actually.
set out, actually, to...
I was thinking exactly what you're just saying.
We've never set it. Yeah, we've never set out and been a genre-hopping band, because I think if you try to follow a scene or follow a trend, you're always going to be a step behind, and I think people can see through that, and people that come up to us after a gig that says, hey, man, that was really good, even if it's one person that does it, to me, that's the job done, is someone appreciating what you did that they enjoyed, because a lot of people can't walk up to someone that's just played a show, even if they're just a local guy in a band or a big rock star, to say, hey, I enjoyed what you did. A lot of people can get a bit shy with that sort of stuff, and we've always just played with whoever, and we'll get back out there and continue to do that, you know, and just do our own thing, and people can see the honesty in what we play, and it's always there. It's always going to be there. You know, that's just how we roll. But people have got to get used to two-piece. Oh, no, two-piece metal bands, but there's tons of them out there. You just jump on the internet machine and you'll find heaps of them.
Now. Yeah, there's a Manta, even Satyricon, a two-piece these days, you know?
Yeah, as well. Dark Throne have always kind of been a two-piece since they became black metal. But yeah, same with Satyricon. When you see these bands and there's a photos, there's just a duo.
Two dudes,
you know, and two dudes. But then, of course, they've got a bigger budget. They're a bigger band where they can hire dudes to do it. But then there's also that idea. I know a couple of guys that aren't playing in bands that go, I can't get a band together. It's just a drummer and myself. And I saw a couple of these guys at a show and I went, just do what my brother and I are doing. Don't be scared of it. Just embrace it and get out there.
Go for it.
Oh,
just
no, we need a bass player. And I go, you know, we didn't expect to get the kind of response, and wow, it actually works. And my bass player, our old bass player, Tim, watched and said, it just looked natural. It looked great. It was just awesome when we played, just the two of us.
I'm going to go.
And like you said, Manta.
Manta, yeah, and I'm going to go there on this point here because, you know, you guys fit smack bang in the middle of this one here. I am a bass player. I'm also a guitarist, but my primary instrument is bass.
Yep.
In metal, I almost feel as though the bass is redundant. Do you agree with that, or am I being too general when I say that?
No, I don't think it is. It depends on what the bassist sort of does. And for us as a band with Tim, he was an amazing bass player, and I'd come up with a riff, and it'd be simple. Like a lot of my stuff isn't Malmsteen mixed with, I don't know, Petrucci, sort of whatever. But Tim will come up with a really cool bass line that'll sort of slot in. He goes, oh, do you think that's too much? And we'd always just say, play what you want to play as long as it fits. We're not, nah, man, it's all about me. I'm the guitarist singer. You just hang in the back. So I feel bass players can be overlooked. They're there to hold the bottom end. Just like, to me, drummers get overlooked. I watch drummers more than guitar players. If a band's good and the drummer's on fire, I'm like, I do too. I'm enjoying watching this
like
dude.
As well. Yeah,
you know. It's much of a muchness with that sort of stuff. If a bass player is a focal point in the sound, it's a big part of it. But if he's just going to be plodding along, jumping in and out of the drummer's patterns and then following the guitar, it's almost the same as keyboard players almost become redundant because people use backing tracks like we're sort of doing as well. Or even go back to Maiden and Sabbath live for years, they've had a dude under the stage playing keyboards.
Aussie Solo in particular always has, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, bass is cool, but other friends said, wow, the bass tracks that you're running of Tim's sound real and amazing. I said, we're not plugging an iPod in with an MP3 bass track. We've got proper stuff sort of set up, you know. But, yeah, that's the thing. It's such an open playing field today that it's doable, you know, that people can, and people are very open-minded today to see bands with 3 guitarists now, or even 2 bass players and things like that, that it's nothing, particularly in metal, nothing's really shunned. it's accepted. It's like, okay, cool.
Well,
if that works and I'm seeing something a bit different, that's great.
Well, I almost think if you're playing lower than C, then there's almost no point in a bass, almost sonically, unless you're doing that, that neo.
Yep.
I always get this band's name incorrect, but is it Neo Obscurvaris or
Neo Obliviscaris?
Yeah, and Vipassi. Unless you're doing that sort of bass work, that bass player was awesome. He was all over the shop. Oh, the Cynic style bass playing. Unless you're doing that.
So that's almost up there doing shredding like the guitarist.
Totally, yeah, totally. But there are a lot of bands, and I won't name anybody because it's irrelevant, but there are a lot of bands where the bass is almost, even on a 5-string bass, they're tuned down well below B, almost to A sharp and A flat and some, or, the A frequency. And it's like, Jesus, I can't hear a goddamn thing because there's 2 guitars. So there's 2 guitars and a bass, and from a sonic perspective, if they're sticking from the 5th fret and below on what is typically known as the B string on a 5-string bass, what the hell is the point?
Yep.
That's only my opinion, but as a bass player, I look at it and
that's the thing too. And the same thing, the whole 7-string, 8-string, everyone doing Meshuggah riffs and tune right down low. Why is there any need for a bass then? If the guitars are so ba-dung-dung, ba-dung-dung,
exactly.
People think it's going to add even more brown notes, doom or whatever. But, it's...
Well, look, I'll go there
to each their own, horses for courses.
I'll go there on this point. You're not saying this, I'm saying this, but I watched Die Artist Murder, and I understand their bassist has just been given an endorsement by Music Man, and I played Music Man as well. But to be honest with you, I can't hear the poor bloke. And I've seen them a couple of times live. So it's almost like as if the endorsement is because he is to be seen and not heard. And I'm not making any criticism there of the band. I love the fact that an Aussie metal band is out there in Europe and the US and doing wonderful things.
Oh, yeah, they're doing really well.
Wonderful things, mate, wonderful things. But I'd love to see him riff a bit more like the guy in Vipassi and I'll say it wrong again, I'm sorry. Neo
Obliviscaris.
There you go. I'd love to see him do a bit more, and I did a review of them recently, and I think I don't know, I can't remember if I made the point, sorry, but I think I wanted to make the point, but I didn't feel comfortable doing it, but I wanted to see him do a little bit more up above, not so much the 12th fret, but up above the 7th fret, just to be heard a little bit more, and I think that's what you guys do so well, because I do listen to the records that I review and that I listen to prior to an interview with headphones on. But the point that I want to make is I didn't feel as though the bass frequency was missed on your album. I do feel as though you've created a very broad album sonically. And look, whether it's Tim playing the bass or is there bass on the album proper, or did you remove it completely?
Yep. Tim,
there is. Yep.
No, Tim played that on the album, and we got the bass tracks that we took from the recording via Dave. He sent us all the stems and everything, and then we've just been running them, and we practice at first, and we were thinking, we're out of time, and the bass player is always going to be perfect because he's a track. But Tim played. Yeah, he's played on everything we've done, and it was hard to sort of pin him down because he had his second child, and when we're still dealing with dad stuff and work, everything was happening at the same time. And, so we were wrapped that he got around to getting it done because we wanted him to sort of do it. And, like I said earlier, that we asked him to, we always, when we write songs, I craft things, and Andrew and I have always sort of jammed the two-piece because of Tim's schedule over the years, that we sort of come up with the songs and then Tim slots in, but then we're all diplomatic. We always have been, and we're just, open, or democratic, I should say. We were all open to swapping things around, and I go, okay, maybe I'll do a vocal on your bass line and let the guitar drop out or whatever. So we were just always open, and we never thought what we did on that last album didn't work. Let's try this style so we can see if we can get some interest there. We were just always trying to write. Tim always said that. We're just writing. You got to write for the song. Because I'd have my moments where I'd go, I should be busier on guitar. I should do more. I should try more. And then you see the guys in the band like Korn, who started a whole generation of bands. Those guys are very good guitar players. I've seen them on YouTube as well, doing different things to what they do in their band, and they're known for what they do, but then they can do other things too, But, as far as, Tim getting the bass stuff done, it's all real and it sounds great, and he even stood there watching us and listening and went, sounded really cool. with the
Good on
tip.
him. Yeah.
You don't need to turn up and set up and pack up at all. It's fine.
You can actually, that's an interesting scenario. You can hear yourself playing the band, but from the audience's perspective, but it is your bass lines coming through the PA. Yeah, I've never thought of it like that before because I've always been the bass player in a band. So there you go. No, good on you, Tim.
Yeah.
And I certainly empathise with him because I've got two young kids myself, and I know I've had to sort of make a lot of decisions about what I did with music. And part of the reason I do music journalism at the moment is because I could never really be in an originals band, and the commitment that it takes to make an originals band even a semblance of a success, like yourself and your brother have been able to do. So I do need to ask this question here now, mate. Mate, it's tough enough being in a band and rehearsing and putting up with other people's idiosyncrasies, but in families, things can go from pleasant to argument in no time at all. So how do yourself and Andy not murder each other when you're in the studio or on the road?
That's happened. It's nearly happened a few times over the years, but I don't know. As we get a bit older, we just find better ways to learn to get along with each other and give each other space with how we are together. And Andrew's always been more dominant with things, and he's great at organising. He's always managed the band and done stuff because he's had 16 years when he was running the Century Media label. So he's on computer doing this and emails and this and that. So he's kind of been the forerunner since the inception of the band of doing all that sort of stuff. And I've written a lot of the music, but there hasn't been, I'm doing more and you're doing less. We each have a role to play, but then we're all open to it. And now that, because sometimes Tim was a bit of a buffer between us as brothers, he would be in between the arguments and crap, and there's other guys I know in bands that are brothers, and they said, you have your brotherly tiffs and you got to have someone else in between. But we were having a few of those during the ending of the recording because it was a stressful time for what we were going through as well. And since it's all done and the album's done, we haven't had any issues at all. We just want to start to get back out there and start playing. But you just find ways to just get through it, and not have petty crap like you were if you were 16 again. We're still into the same stuff at that age, but we've just learned not to be as stupid with some things and carry on.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. And look, just back to the album, I really do like your vocal in particular. It reminds me of a cross between Killing Joke's Jazz Coleman circa Pandemonium, particularly on the track The Immediate Age, and one of my favourite of all time is Chuck Schuldiner, and this is particularly on the song Throwaway circa Human. So who are your vocal inspirations?
Well, it always started off with Old Sepultura from like Beneath the Remains of Rise era. I learned to sing the heavy voice from singing along with those sorts of songs. And then over the years, I like singers as well. People do say, because you do the heavy and clean, I've had a lot of comparisons, Burton from Fear Factory. And I go, he's a good guy and he's a good singer. He's made his mark by doing that sort of stuff. But over the years, no one in particular. It's just been listening to the music, and on this album particularly pushing myself with, okay, this vocal section here, I have to sing a bit differently. I can't just yell. I'll even try a different kind of yelling. Otherwise, I'm just going to be Cookie Monster vocals over a really cool part of a song that can kind of spoil it, and I hear that with some bands. And that's always been the fickle thing with metal. I worked in retail for many years in music, and people I worked with were like, hey, I like metal, I love the music, but I hate the vocals, and the appeal doesn't have to appeal to the wider community, but when you want to listen to something and you go, the music sounds great, and then predominantly for metal, you're waiting for a great voice to really even push the sound, and sometimes that's a letdown. Even for me, I go, they need a better singer. This guy isn't as good for that music. So for me, the singer, I'm just trying to do my own thing, but I love stuff like, like Patton, he's a genius for what he does.
Awesome.
Even Jonas from Catatonia, he's amazing for what he does. Mike from Opeth's amazing, and they both, particularly Mike, I don't think I'm a very good singer, but he's just got a really nice tone to his voice.
Agreed, yeah.
Same with Nick from Paradise Lost.
Awesome, yeah. Wonderful comparison there, yeah.
People like that. Even Tom Araya from Slayer as well, like his sort of vocals. I've kind of grown up on the singers that you can understand. They could be singing about I stepped in dog shit, but you can understand what they're saying. And in more recent times, you got a lot of the vocalist frontman doing the mic cupping, where it's all inaudible, and it sounds brutal, but you've got to be clear with your voice. And being a guitar vocalist, you can't hide your hand from the mic to distort it even more to make it sound more brutal. You've got to, make sure everything comes out. Oh no, I'm just into sort of clarity. And even, the older singer that was in The Haunted, Peter Dolving, that guy had amazing pipes for what he...
Yeah.
In that sort of vocal delivery where it's very... sorry, I think my phone's going a bit funny there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, cut out for a bit.
Oh,
That's
there,
okay.
yeah, cut out for a bit. Yep. Just listening to the older singers that do a heavy style that's understandable and it's proper technique, I find. That's what I've sort of learned. And I've went and got lessons over the years, more to do with the singing stuff, and singing teacher was like, I can't teach you heavy stuff because you've obviously got that down, without losing your voice, and that hasn't happened. And even someone like Devon, that guy's a genius with what he does vocally as well, So
wonderful.
Yeah, I've just tried different things, and hilarious. And I'll just and another band as well. I'm just actually looking at my CD shop at the moment, pointing out singers. Joe from Gojira is amazing.
Gojira,
The Mastodon guys have improved. Mastodon guys have improved tenfold with their vocals over the years too, and I've followed them since their early days. Our next lot of songs, we don't know what's going to come. It's exciting about it because we're not genre specific, which you obviously can hear that. But
I really like that about you. Actually.
I'll try other things
that's
too.
Wonderful about what you guys do. It's it's going in one direction, then it changes, and that's where I alluded to the proggy element before. But I only say the proggy element because there are so many elements of metal and rock built into your sound. That it's very. I mean, it's almost impossible to pigeonhole you, but at the same time, isn't that a wonderful thing to say about a band? It's just great hard rock or heavy metal music.
Yep. That's the thing. We love it how people can't define us, but of course we're not reinventing any wheel whatsoever. We're just throwing in a pot full of influences and bands that we like, and not specifically copying them, but just this feels good. And then Andrew might come up with a drum pattern that'll it'll just give me a different guitar idea. And I wrote the keyboard ideas, but Dave added to them, and because he's a keyboard player, genius, keyboardist, guitarist, everything. He goes, I love what you did because it complemented your guitar part. And a lot of those keyboard ideas were guitar riffs, were little guitar licks that I just said, since we haven't got two guitarists, I'm going to make the keyboard be kind of the second guitarist to complement the guitar and the keyboards, and it actually really worked. And like I said earlier, that's the hard thing too, that when people ask me, who do you sound like? People want to know what they're going to hear first. They want to be told what they want to hear instead of being a bit open-minded. And that's probably why we haven't had huge success over the course of our career, is because we don't fit in specifically to a genre. Because if you're stuck in a genre, you don't really have anywhere to move, unless you do like a Celtic Frost and do Cold Lake, and then all of a sudden go whoops.
I'm one of the few people who loves that album.
That didn't work.
Nobody else likes that album except for me. That was actually the album that I got into them through, believe it or not. I love Cherry Orchids.
I ought to tell my mate Joel from Whitskull about that and go, okay.
Where Eagles Dare. There's a few other tracks on that album that I'm seriously a big fan of that album, and people hate it. And I think what it is because when I was starting out, I love that album and the early Venom catalogue as a guitarist. And I've
Cherry Orchid.
Cherry Orchids. But I've spoken to the guitarist in Venom about all of this sort of stuff. I didn't mention that I loved Cold Lake, but when I was starting to play guitar,
probably hang up on you.
Well, he probably would, but he's a lovely bloke. So he's one of those things.
Mantis.
Yeah, Mantis, wonderful guy. Yeah, I spoke to him only a couple of weeks back, just before I went to Philippines, actually, from his home in Portugal. They're in Venom Inc. these days. I don't know whether you've been keeping up with what they're doing, but they've got one of the albums of the year out, as far as I'm concerned at the moment. I mean, I'm an old fan, so I'm I'm biased, but Jesus, I love what they're doing. But I guess, sorry, the point being is that guitar playing, that style of guitar playing, I just find sits really easy. I'm a right-handed guitarist, so it sits really easy with my right hand, my right wrist, so I can play it quite easy. So I was finding myself playing along to Cold Lake and playing along to Welcome to Hell and black metal and thinking, maybe I should be doing this. And I've got to confess, I've never played in a metal band in my life. It sounds
Get out there, man.
I'd love to, mate, but you know what it is. I'm a jazz and funk guy at heart. So that's why I play bass. And look, I think part of me now is, as I get older, I realise, man, I'm going to go the full hog. I love the first Bathory album, the second Venom album, and basically all of the Celtic Frost catalogue. I think before my time has expired on this planet, man, I'm going to produce 8 tracks of just brutal, old school, rhythmic black metal. That's what I'm going to do.
Yep.
I might get you in. I might get you in
Awesome.
to do vocals for me, mate, because I do enjoy your vocal.
Yeah, I'll give it a crack.
That's awesome.
I'll just do a couple of Bathory impersonations and black metal.
That's right. Black metal. The first song I ever learned on guitar was To Hell and Back, actually. I was explaining that to Mantis, actually, and we had a good chuckle over it. But look, I really appreciate the fact that guys like him are doing those things. But look, I digress. The other thing I wanted to talk about is because you can certainly play guitar. There's no question about that. I was listening to this album, and look, in all fairness, mate, and I've got to confess, this is the first album of yours that I've really invested time in listening to, even though it's only been, the 12 or so hours that I've been listening to it. But I really found that I enjoyed it. But one of the main reasons that I truly enjoyed it was your guitar playing. I really enjoy your vocal cadence, there's no doubt about that, but I really find with your guitar playing, there's some jazz-inspired chords in there. Is that what's going on, or am I just? Well, that's what I'm hearing, mate. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
Well, I'm left-handed, but I play right-handed. I'm not a theory guy. I don't know a whole lot, to be honest. I just play a bit of acoustic stuff at home. End of the day, I just find things on there and record it and go back and try to work it out later and see if it fits in what we're doing. And that's kind of how I do it. I remember reading a guitar interview with a guitarist from Tool, Adam Jones, and he says a lot of my ideas come from sitting on the couch watching TV, playing guitar. And I kind of went, hang on, that's what I do. There's times where I've gone into my room and sat down and gone, okay, time to write some riffs, and it just doesn't come. And then other times I'm sitting there plucking away, watching a movie or something, and then I'll strum something and go, hang on, pause the movie and listen back and go, oh, that's pretty cool. And I got some other friends of the theory that said, that's a really cool chord. Do you know the name of it? And I said, no, I don't. And other friends I know in bigger bands say, I'm the same. I don't know shit. Just play what sounds good. And I've always stuck with that philosophy. And wow, that's a compliment to hear that, it's not a good guitaring, because I've never really had many people. Other people have said, have you thought about a second guitar player? And I thought, here we go, because I'm not shredding and soloing. But I've developed, I know I have, since the last album. But I've always been a riff guy. I've always been, that you've got to have a good, catchy part, but not intentionally. We've got to write a catchy riff so people can sing along to it. I've got to enjoy what I've written first and then present it to the other guys. And if they like it and they hear it for the first time and go, that's pretty cool, then we sort of go from there. I don't need their reassurance, but I just think, I like this. What do you think of that? And then we just sort of go from there. So, yeah, who knows what I'm going to come up with next. But old school thrash, I love that. I just love playing that stuff as well. But then I love acoustic style playing and come up with some minor chords and then move a finger here and there and swap things around and go, I like the sound of that. And then, like I said before, that recently a lot of those keyboard ideas have stemmed from some of those chords that you mentioned, that I've just gone, okay, I'm just going to put that on keyboard and see if it complements the other guitar part that I've done, sort of go from there.
You're an intuitive player. That's what I'm picking up, because it's not about the theory. You actually know what fits musically. That's what it is.
And that's what the other friends that are really good guitar players say to me. They say, you choose your notes well. And I said, well, it does take me longer to get there than someone like yourself that knows where you're going on the fretboard. But then sometimes they say, it's kind of pigeonholed me in the box that that's how I've learned as a player, opposed to someone like me that has learnt the basics and then just gone off and played. And that's kind of what I've always done. And yeah, there is slight intimidation towards other players, but then over the years I've just learnt to say, bugger it, I'm just expressing myself, just being me, you know, like I'm not reinventing anything, I'm just being me. And it's nice to have that compliment you mentioned as well, that people can say, you know, you're doing your own thing, and it's hard to put a finger on it. And it's good to hear some friends have heard our stuff and said, when I heard the first riff, it was you guys. And I thought, wow, that's great, you know. We just want 250 million other people to jump on board now.
It's a fair point. So, look, I'm going to digress at this point, and I'm going to offer a compliment to your brother, who's, of course, got the flu at the moment. But I really admired a narrative that he maintained during his time on the Triple J show, 3 Hours of Power. I think that's what it was called when he was on it. But anyway.
Full Metal Racket,
sorry, Full Metal Racket. Sorry, I'm old school, sorry, mate. So it's I haven't listened to Triple J in years, to be honest with you. But Andrew
Likewise.
I don't know what it is about.
Listen, AndrewHaug.com, 24/7 rock metal radio. Get on board, get the app.
There you go, people.
Talk it up.
Get it into you. So Andrew,
free app. Go to the Google store.
Is it on the iPhone app? Is it on the Apple platform?
Yeah, iPhone app. It's on the Android app. Yep, on the platform. Just go there and download it. Done. Free.
All right, there you go, people. Actually, I might add, mate, most of the people who listen to my podcast, so the people who are listening to this via the podcast, they're from overseas. Barely anybody's from Australia.
Oh,
so,
cool.
That's the reason I asked that, because they won't be listening on radio or... So if you've got a desktop app, because I noticed just by the data that I get, most people listen to my podcast via a desktop app. What can they... Andy's show, what would that be available to somebody in Indonesia, for example? How would they find his show?
I'm trying to think. He runs all that sort of stuff.
Is there a word that they can go to?
You just type it. It'd be just, I think it's, I'm in front of my computer right now, just give me 2 seconds. It's like Andrew Haug, I think Andrew Haug Radio or andrewhaug.com. There's just a website you go to, and then it'll link you straight to the show. Yeah, andrewhaug.com.
Okay,
one word.
And for the international listeners, Haug is spelled Haug. Paul, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, that's it. So just type in andrewhaug.com, and the radio station comes up. There's a free app, iPhone app now. There's a link for that. Yes, so type in andrewhaug.com and it'll come up. And, it's playing right now.
All right, cool. The cool thing about my podcast...
It's andrewhaug.com.
The cool thing about my podcast, mate, is that most people listening come from far-flung places such as Saudi Arabia, the US, Europe, and the like. So if you love some Aussie metal, get it into you. Do that.
Yep. Do it. Andrew plays. He plays a cross section, as you know. Like at the moment, there's Watain on there, and then he'll go into playing, you know, like a Melbourne band, Circles or something like that, and then he'll play Near Obliviscaris, and then he'll play some Grand Magus and Gojira, and he just cross section of everything, you know.
Lots of stuff.
Burger Kill, play them as well from Indo.
Words,
he plays everything.
If you like metal in general, this is your one-stop shop.
Yep. 24/7, just stay up 24 hours a day and listen to metal. Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong with that. I totally agreed. So, mate, the point I was making before was that Andrew often spoke about the metal community and the need for comradeship, and it's something that I feel strongly about, and it's something that I feel is surely lacking if you read those insidious message boards on Blabbermouth and Metal Sucks and all those other goddamn metal sites.
It's very negative.
It's awful. I've interviewed close to 200 musicians at the moment, and I learnt very early on in the piece not to send things into Blabbermouth or those other sites because they get picked up and they take the most negative aspect and they promote that, and the artist gets hammered. And I can't stand that. And there
are some funny comments on there though.
There are some funny ones, but there are some really stupid ones, you know, too, that just don't.
There's some horrible ones.
Yeah, and it's I'm somebody that's got 2 children, right? So I tend to think about all these sorts of things, and I think I don't know where to start, to be honest with you. It's sort of it sort of makes you lose faith in humanity in one respect, in one way. But anyway, I digress, and I don't want to be too serious about it.
It affects you, yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does affect
you. Like for
yeah.
Yeah, for us, of course, we've copped a lot of crap over the years. I'm not going to sit here and have a sook about it. And a lot of things have been tied into what Andrew's sort of been involved with his radio stuff. That he's in a band too. So he can't do more than one thing. It's tall poppy syndrome, the Australian sort of attitude.
Massive problem in Australia.
That it is, and it's never going to change. It was like that when AC/DC were around in the early days, which is why they went overseas and said, "See ya." We deserve something better. You just keep doing what you're doing, and I just try to keep things simple. If someone appreciates what you do and they buy what you do, they're the people you want in your life. If the people are going to bag things, I find the people that bag are people that were in bands that are no longer in bands, people that wish they could do it but are obviously very insecure and very scared to get up there and do it and cop criticism, like all the bands that get out there and do it. Devin actually said to me after we did the tour with them, because we had horrible reviews, but they weren't really, people didn't put a face to the name. They weren't proper reviewers. Anyone can just have a review.
So you had reviews about your show in particular as Contrive, or just the tour in general with Devin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, just us and we don't deserve to be in the tour and blah, 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 Andrew Haug's band and all their shit. No, yeah, it's going back years. But Devin just said, look, just as like what's important is your relationship between each other and what you do, and the bigger you get, the worse it is. So just don't even pay attention to it, And it's hard not to, just avoid it, because some friends go, there's a review, I don't want you to read it. And then you get intrigued and you read it and you go, okay. And people are going to say, these guys are still going, they're crap, whatever. But then if we're hearing these guys are great, they're doing their thing. So you got to take the good with the bad. And I know it's hard because, like you said, you got kids, and we live in a world where everyone is so inferior of being hurt by someone and saying the wrong thing. And there's high suicide rates for kids today that they can't, express themselves because someone will bully them online. It's, horrible things going on.
And that's what I get concerned about. It's like, I can handle it, to be honest. And look, as I say, I've interviewed everybody when I say everybody, I've interviewed the members, a member of Morbid Angel to members of Pantera to everybody in between. And I've read the comments about my interview technique afterwards, and rarely are they negative, but a few times I've read it, I thought, like, I'm not going to say they're so overly negative that they're like maybe question my consciousness or my reason to live or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I read it and I think, God, what would my kids think if they read this? And my eldest daughter is 4.5, and she's very digital. She's what you'd call a digital native.
Yeah,
My youngest, who's almost 3, doesn't care. But you'd be surprised, mate. Young girls. You mentioned you had a niece or a nephew earlier. How old? You mentioned that they were into the iPads or the iPhones, and my God,
they're 12 going on. They're going on 16, 17. That's how advanced, because of technology, has sped everything up for us. That and their attitudes and what they know at that age is not what you and I knew at our age. But then people sort of say, well, our parents blocked us from this and that when we were kids. We should have known about this and can't grow up that quickly, But with this technology and the way of life and how quick things are going, it can't really be slowed down. It can't really be helped,
Yeah. Yeah, and I look at the comments and I think I can handle. To be honest, it's not that I don't want to invite negative comments, okay? But I'm just saying that I can handle it because I guess I can. I'm not that sensitive or what have you. But what happens if some people read it who can't handle it and think, "Is this how brutal the world is?" And this is the point. Like poor old.
Yeah, it is. You have to build a thick skin, and Andrew's copped it. And from Andrew being moved on from Triple J. He didn't leave. He got moved on.
Is that right? Is that what, I don't mean to pry, but is that what happened there? He got moved on, did he? Because he was awesome.
Yep, they did. They basically kind of just said, time to get someone younger and fresher or whatever. Yeah. Then he's gone ahead and built his 24/7 radio thing, and it's amazing, and he's got no beef with the guy. What's his name? Lachlan. He played our track a couple of weeks ago as well on the show, and that was cool.
The young kid, we've got the Earring kid that they've got in there at the moment, or the what they call his earrings of spaces, whatever, I don't know, whatever. But I've reached out to him to try to interview him actually, but he never responded. But I don't blame him for that. It's probably because he gets 100 requests a week or so for that sort of thing. But I always felt, I just want to, go back to what I was saying earlier. I really appreciated Andy's attitude. Sorry, I don't mean to call him Andy. I just call everybody with Andrew Andy because that's what I get called. But I really appreciated Andrew's attitude and the narrative that he took when he was hosting the show, because we are a community, and he mentioned that quite a bit.
Yep.
And this whole thing about people going on, and they're not, generally speaking, they aren't Australians that go onto these goddamn message boards on Metal Sucks and PRP, Invisible Oranges,
yep,
and Blabbermouth. But my question
yep,
from that point would be this. Do you feel supported by fans in Australia, and what would you change about the metal scene in Australia?
Well, we've never had a big following, that's completely honest. Despite having big support slots with some of our famous friends that say we want you guys to play, and it hasn't really benefited us because of the whole jealousy sort of thing. But we're friends with lots of guys in totally different bands. We've never had any beef or issues with other guys in bands and bad talk them and get on forums and all that sort of stuff. But I have seen a big divide over the years because there's a newer generation that's come up, and they would look at, for example, some of these 20-something-year-olds look at Metallica as dad rock, because my dad's like in his 40s and he's in the Metallica, that's so old, they're a bit sort of, their attitude's very different, and it should be, doesn't matter what age, metal doesn't discriminate. Everyone should be like, hey man, I like this band, I'll check out that band. But then that's leaning towards, talking about some of the negative. But then I worked in retail for many years, and I see dudes that are in their late 20s now that I've met since I was 16, 17, going to gigs. They're still passionate. They're hungry. They'll say to their other mate, this is Paul. He got me into this band and that band, and I'm so thankful for him. And I finally got to see Megadeth, and I love them, and it's awesome. And that to me is awesome. That's great. That's what I prefer to listen to and be around, people that are like that, because by human nature, anything negative, we more so today, we sort of take more notice of it and think, what can we do to improve it? We don't sort of go, don't care about that. Next, it's a big focus now. Negativity is a big focus of keep away from negativity. Don't listen to what people say. Don't get bullied. And by bringing it to the forefront makes everybody think about it so much. That's how I sort of see it. But with the scene, it's changed a lot, but it's not saying it's growing, but it's not going to go anywhere. It's not go anywhere, but it's just going to keep going, and it's good. It's healthy. There are some great bands out there. I just say to people, if you like Andrew always does, there's bands that he plays on his station that he doesn't really like, but he's catering for everybody and says, get out there and support them. If you like a band that plays a mix between Manowar and, I don't know, Burzum, go and check them out. You know what I mean? Just even though today there's 90 subgenres, bands will play 5 genres in one song, and you go, ooh, I'll go and check out if you like a mixture of that.
Yep.
But it's still, the scene's still happening, but it'd be good to, sadly we don't have the Soundwave thing anymore. Metal for the Brain
that is
died many years ago now.
Yeah.
That it'd be great if there was something like that came along that was able to showcase a variety of bands, but then of course it goes back to 80 million bands in Australia and only 30 or 40 can get picked, and then people will be saying, even when Metal for the Brain was still going, the early days of internet chatting, people were, they don't deserve to be on it, they're shit, they're crap, because they're either friends of another friend's band that wants to get their friend's band on there, and they're just having a dig and things like that. So, I just sort of go, you
it's
can't
like whatever.
win. You can't change people. These people, it's a reflection of who they are with being so negative on what they have to say, and everybody has a platform now to say what they want to say, It's not police, of course, because free speech,
But you mentioned something earlier, which I think is, look, as I say, my wife's half Croatian, half Filipino, so we have spent a lot of time in the Philippines because of her family being over there.
Yep.
Asia, from an Australian perspective, being on our doorstep is an untapped market. And just reading your Facebook bio on something that you mentioned during our discussion, you're one of the first, if not the first, Australian metal band to play in Vietnam, and you were a massive draw when you were over there. What would it take for more Australian bands to mine this? You know, I'm just talking commercial terms here. What would it take for an Australian band to mine this market? Because they're clearly there. I mean, I've just spent some time in the Philippines. As I say, I've seen the best guitarist I've ever seen with my own eyes. I just saw five or six nights ago on a bar on a stage in a bar in Cebu in Lapu-Lapu City. This guy could play almost anything from the Ritchie Blackmore stuff through to the Led Zeppelin stuff. This guy was brilliant. They love guitar-based music in Asia. Why aren't we mining this?
That's the thing. Not so much lack of promoters. I've been in Indonesia many times through Dad, so I know what people are like, and been to Vietnam as well before that. That's a lot of people I know here as a band, they'd be like, no, what do we do? How do we get there? Or who would do this? And they're not very comfortable with it. You know, they're not sort of
with the promoter. Is that what it comes down to? Is that, in your view, is that what it comes down to? The promotional
some of it's and it can be a bit of a language barrier, as well as how to organise things, and what you do here is completely different over there. And I've worked at the Hammersonic Festival twice, and that's just as professional as any other festival I've been to in Europe. It's just got a different
just for the
take on it.
Hammersonic?
In Jakarta.
Okay, nice. Okay.
Indonesia. And a lot of bands, some either wait to be invited and hope that someone's going to bring them over there. For us as a band, we've knocked on doors and we continue to do that. And some bands would, so how'd you get over there? Can you send me your promoter's name? Cheers. You know, you just get these, we're expected to do it. It's like, hang on. It's just like having your own business. Yeah. You know, you say, well, you've got to get out there. A lot of it's networking, and sure, you could be a Malmsteen, you could be a chump as well, but if you can't sell yourself as another human being with respect and common sense towards another person with good communication skills, you don't have anything. That's how I look at it. And we're able to do that with how we are as people, you know, and meet people and say, hey, we want to bring our music and play it for people over there. We hope to get back over there sometime, hopefully before the end of the year if we can.
So when I was over in Cebu, Angel Corpse, of all bands, Angel Corpse played Cebu when I was there. I missed it because it's not really well promoted, and you have to sort of dial into the local version of Facebook and get, you know, the local cachets or whatever it might be on Facebook to sort of pick up on the fact that you're there. And internet coverage there isn't great either, so therefore access to Facebook isn't. But, mate, of all bands, Angel Corpse, who are one of the underground's greatest death metal bands, in my view, played there and drew a massive audience. When I looked at where they'd been, mate, they'd been all over Southeast Asia. There are pathways to do that, and you've just hinted at it as well, but it really is up to the individuals, whether it be the band management or the band members themselves, to be, I'm going to use this word, entrepreneurial, and to forge those pathways.
That's what it is, because it's an open playing field, and that's what my brother mentioned as well. And no, I met the guys from Christian when they've toured here before, but I had breakfast with them at the hotel in Jakarta at the Hammersonic Festival I was working at. And
love that band.
I was flying home that day. Yeah, and they were going to Bangalore that following day.
That's
and
right,
then by the time I flew home, I'd see everything on the net. And I went to Brazil. I was in Brazil 2 months ago, and Alex was like, yeah, hit me up, man, when you come to Sao Paulo, Brazil. Didn't get a chance to, but I was like, these guys, they're three brothers, and they manage themselves. They organise everything. Sure, they've got a bit of label support, and they've done the groundwork over the years. They're a hard-working band. They tour all the time. Friends in Brazil, so those guys are never home. They're always touring. And, they've made inroads with other promoters and still do that sort of stuff. And that's what it is. You've got to go to the source. You know, you can't... I've met people still at gigs, are you guys going to get back out and start playing? Yeah, we'd love to play with you guys. And I go, yeah, cool, man, hit us up. Oh, we've got a manager and she's got to do this. And I've even said for years, in this country, in this scene, you don't need a manager. You can do it yourself.
Agreed.
Ring a venue. We want to get added. We want to get added to a bill like we started. We were like known as the emergency band when we first started out. We were playing on a Monday night at 8:00. The band pulled out, and we did a lot of groundwork to start with, and just to gain more live experience and to get out there a lot more. And some people can be a bit complacent and think, we're just using the internet and stuff like that. But you still got to meet people. You still got to contact people and say, hey, we're interested. It is, like I said, entrepreneurial skills. You've got to try to find different ways than just what everyone else has done. And you can't look at a Metallica documentary and watch them starting out from 1983 and go, well, we did this, and this was kind of led to our pathway of success. Totally irrelevant today. It's a great success story, but it's irrelevant to what is happening today, because today it's so open to do your own thing. And that's why we just said to ourselves, hey, let's be a two-piece. I haven't seen any two-piece twin brothers before. That's a cool thing. In metal, I'm not going to mention the bros or anything like that. Just did. But it's just, you can just do whatever. But when it comes to touring parts of Asia, like good friends from Adelaide band Truth Corroded, they've been over many times. They played in Taiwan as well. They've even played Vietnam and Bangkok, like we have as well. And
yeah, cool.
It's just so open. But then it can be hit and miss as well, because sometimes promoters can say on the other end, we've got everything organised for you, and you get there and there's half a cymbal. What's this?
Yes.
It can be miscommunication as well, or not understanding, and that's where a lot of bands that are bigger don't go to those territories, purely because of the uncertainty of the corruption that's involved there as well.
I understand that. Yeah.
The rubber watch. I've forgotten the term in which was sort of talked that, everything be okay. A rubber watch, that doesn't work. You know what I mean? That it's, what time? 5:00, everything will be good. Come 5:00, nothing's happening. And then they're all still cool about it. Yeah, no problem. And you go, you're stressing trying to get a show together. But, I go on tangents. As far as, with the scene and other bands, just get out there and do things too,
And do it,
just like we are, just like anyone else. It's what you got to do.
Would you recommend a young? So obviously I'm a Queenslander, and I know a reasonable amount of young bands up here from Gympie, Sunshine Coast, where I'm from, the Sunshine Coast, and so they're looking to do different things. And the big city, the big smoke, even though it's not that far away, is Brisbane, which isn't that big. Even compared to Melbourne, where you've got Cherry Bar and all these other places that are open till all sorts of hours. Would you recommend that they take the jump? And I'm only asking your opinion here, of course. Would you recommend that these young bands go, you know what, we've got the world at our feet here. We're 24. I'm 24 years of age, or we're collectively average age of the band is 24 years of age. Let's do this. Let's go and tour the Philippines or Indonesia. Let's go and forge these ties. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, we've got a heck of a story to tell.
Oh, exactly. I'm one of these people that goes, I wish I did that when I was their age. It can be a bit of that hindsight sort of thing, but they've got nothing to lose. Just get out there and just try to do it. We're still doing the same. We're still just going, okay, we're going to start to contact. I've got friends. I've been to Japan 7 times. I've got lots of friends over there. Japan's a very hard market unless you're a big sort of known band, and you have, and as well, and you actually have official releases in Japan that people can actually go and buy, because Japan, I love, CD shopping, vinyl shopping there is one of the last places on earth. It is, and, for us, we'd say, love to go over there, and I know a few people, but it's not as easy as it is. But then again, you see some bands that I haven't even heard of that are from Australia going over there and playing, and it's like, because, everyone is doing their own thing their own way, there isn't a certain set way of doing things, so... It's open slather pretty much,
Yeah, cool, mate.
So these guys in Queensland just get out there and just rock.
I think there's a perception sometimes that when you're from Queensland, you're still from a country town. Is the point that I make further to the one that I made earlier, and this whole idea that you got to move to Melbourne, or when you never moved to Sydney. Don't get me wrong, people from Sydney, but you wouldn't do it. But you'd move to Melbourne from a musical perspective. But there's not really necessary, is it?
No, not anymore. Even bands I know that are from Sweden, there's no, the band is starting to take off. We have to relocate to LA. to one of my best mates, Joel from Airborne. Those guys, they're Australian through and through. They're doing their first South American tour. They've nearly finished the end of it. These guys are based here, but their market is Europe, pretty much all over the world except here. They kind of go on the AC/DC sort of thing that they have got a following here. Don't get me wrong, but their market is elsewhere, and you go where the market is, and we're still tapping into that, and play here, and we'll try to play elsewhere as well.
All right, mate. We've almost hit. Actually, we're well over the hour mark, so it is your birthday, and I'm going to wish you a very happy 44th birthday. But before I let you go, brother...
Thank you, Andrew. Don't say how old I am, mate. Just say I'm 18 years old. I can look like Sebastian Bach from Skid Row.
Oh, except I read his book when I was in the Philippines, funnily enough, because as I say,
I haven't read it yet.
Oh, I won't give you anything away, but it's a bit of an eye opener at points. It's not like The Dirt by Motley Crue or anything like that, or that book by Carmine Appice. But it's there are parts of it that are a bit of an eye opener actually, and anyway, I'll leave it at that because I'm a massive Skid Row fan, as I think we all are as metal fans. But there are parts of that.
Yeah, amazing.
He probably spent precious few chapters talking about the formation of Skid Row. It was really more about him and his opinions on things that happened. But look, he's entitled to do that. And probably my favourite guitarist of all time, with all due respect to your good self, mate, is Raul Santola, who was in Deicide, Iced Earth, and Obituary. And he played in Sebastian Bach's band, and I've had a couple of chats to him in the last 12 months about his time in all of these bands, and in particular his time in the Sebastian Bach band. So I won't air any... It's certainly no dirty laundry, but Sebastian Bach is definitely a lead singer, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I've heard and read things. I've heard many things. Well,
mate, before I let you go, as I say, there are 3 questions that I ask everyone, or most of my interview subjects, I should say. Sometimes I don't have the time or the opportunity to do so, but since I've got it here, unless you tell me otherwise, I'd love to ask you 3 questions. And the first of the 3 questions is, if you could choose 3 words to describe yourself, mate, what would those 3 words be?
3 words to describe myself? Oh, well, honest, friendly, metal.
Nice.
That's it, I think.
Definitely.
Hope that's all right.
No, it's good, mate. Summarise as far as I'm certainly in the air. 1 hour, 11 minutes and 27 seconds we've been talking. That certainly summarises you nicely. So I'll go to the next...
Wow.
I'll go to the next question, which is that if you could go back to when you're 18 and give yourself some advice, what advice do you think you'd give?
Well, I think about it every day, to be honest. I don't know. I still feel the same as what I did then, but then again, I'd probably tell myself just to not stress about stuff that's not worth stressing about, and worry about, the negativity and what people think and what people say, because as you get older, you don't really care much about that. I'd probably say to myself,
great on that.
Don't worry about it at all. You just sort of...
You don't give a shit, do you, as you older you get? You realise that it's no point in caring. I say that to my wife all the time. Who cares?
But not in a negative sense where you're being rude and hurting other people, but just sort of saying that, hey, you shouldn't care about the way that you perceive yourself amongst other people. You are who you are, and if people accept you for who you are, great. If they don't, then they don't. You can't always please people,
And just from the listener's perspective, after 11 or 12 years as an account executive at Telstra, I got out and I've decided to follow the path that I probably always should have followed. So you've got to be yourself. I mean, that's what you're saying there, and you can't apologise for being you. It's difficult sometimes.
Exactly. I work in retail for many years. I won't name the company I work for. Where I was
the
biggest metal buyer for the country, and it was awesome.
You mentioned that a couple of times, but can you mention it, or is it you can't mention it? Who you work for?
I could, JB Hi-Fi, many years ago.
Well, they're up here,
But now, doing that, it was great. Even though the job itself, which just putting stock out, whatever, CDs, I used to get in trouble because I'd go upstairs and a delivery would turn up where I'd get a new album of someone. Then there's like 5 metal dudes waiting downstairs, just foaming at the mouth, waiting for it. And my manager would say, Paul, no, you're not touching that. And I go, I've got to get it out there. Everyone's, and I was just passionate. I loved it, and doing that sort of stuff where I was just out there supporting it. And just to look on people's faces like me, they're just excited about it, getting something that they look forward to buying and things like that. So, and for the job I do now, I do disability work. I look after people with disability, that's a big change, but it's also inspiring to see that, when you see people without disability complaining about things that aren't worth complaining about, you go, hey, this person has this and they didn't ask for it, but they've got it and they've got to make the best of what they got, and it puts things in perspective for me at times, that sometimes it can be a horrible job, but it is what it is. But
No, good on you, mate. Thanks for mentioning that. I just thought it was important because I think, even for the international listeners, JB Hi-Fi is like what Sam Goody's in the States used to be. And, it's a product-driven place, so it's all about CDs or records or, hi-fi equipment and all the rest of it. And, mate, you're just trying to give people what they want. You had a manager telling you not to do it, which sucks. That's disgraceful, to be honest with you. That's
I had moments, like that sort of stuff, that I'd be chatting to guys about metal and stuff for half an hour, then I get taken aside. You need to go and do this sort of stuff now over in that area. You need to go and do this. You've been talking too much. And I go, that's part of the job, So, anyway, that was many, many years ago. But I left of my own accord. There was no beef, no drama. So I've still got good friends that still work for the company and whatnot, and I still get my discounts. But, it's all good. But I just want to say thanks for the interview, Andrew. It was a great chat, and it's first interview I've had in many years, and probably one of the best I've had. And to all the listeners out there, thanks for taking the time to listen to Andrew and myself, and checking out our band Contrive. And we hope to see you soon. Just get on board.
Thank you, brother.
It's the word.
It's been great, yeah. And look, I do encourage anybody internationally or domestically here in Australia to get behind the release. When I say get behind the release, check it out at least on iTunes. When's it released, mate?
It was released on the 1st of September, and we've got it up on. It's on It's on every digital forum. Spotify, iTunes. You can buy them directly through us. Just go to contrive.com.au website, and there's a big cartel there. We've got merch. We've got some really shirts turned out amazing. We've got shirts and hoodies, and we've got the CD, which is pretty limited.
Yeah.
We've got that, and we've got the Connect Dead video clip, which you can see on YouTube as well. So
great video, by the way.
Giving everything a right full plug.
Yeah. I mean, you've done, just quickly, I'll just offer this. Your online presence is of high quality. So I just want to say to any fans that want to get involved, it's all there. It's not one of those situations where you have to really dig for it and hope for the best. There's a great video. The quality, also the production quality and the mastering and the mixing of the album's great. And anybody that's a fan of, the old school listeners, okay, so if you're a fan of Coroner, get into it. Any of the new school listeners, if you love Devin Townsend, get right into it as well. It's all there.
Yep, awesome. No, great comparison. I'm honoured and humbled to be compared to such greatness. That's great bands, great people, and they're just honest guys too, doing what they love, and that's how it should be. And it's just great to connect with people as well that hopefully will contact us after this interview and here in the podcast and say, I really dig the band. So keep playing it, man. Keep giving it a spin.
Well, I'm going to post this. I'll do this tonight, actually. I'll post it to my Facebook, my social media profiles on Facebook and Twitter. I'll tag yourself and your brother into it via your band page, of course. But I want to congratulate you both again for a wonderful release. As I say, I'm not bullshitting. I think it's a wonderful.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
It's probably, if not my favourite Australian release of the year, one of my favourite Australian releases of the year. I love.
Thanks so much.
39 years of age, mate. I love stuff that I can listen to with the kids. This is one of those albums. I'm not trying to put anybody out there that's a hardcore metal listener. It's got its brutal, heavy moments, but at the same time, you can certainly listen to it and you can absorb everything that's going on.
We're about dynamics, man. That's the thing. It's just, just light and shade. Otherwise, we get bored if it's just jackhammer all the way through.
Exactly.
People hear that from start. They'll know from the first riff to the last riff of the album that that's what they heard. And each song to me we've always written has to represent itself, and we've played, apart from little acoustic interlude bits and pieces we've done on previous EPs and stuff. Every song that we've ever recorded, we've played live many times, because that's what you write a song for, to play live, you know, and to appeal to people. And we'll just continue to do what we do.
Well, thank you very much, brother, and I'll certainly be in the crowd when you play the Sunshine Coastal Brisbane.
Yep, very good, and I look forward to meeting you face to face. We'll be in touch.
Likewise, brother. Thank you so much again, eh?
No worries, mate. You take care.
No worries, mate.
Thanks again.
Okay, catch ya.
You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series, and my name is Andrew Mackay-Smith. That was Paul Haug from the Melbourne outfit Contrive. Thanks so much for listening.